Hi, this is Zen from Nebulous Tree. In this video, we will go through the steps for deploying our Sybase ASE connector for CA IDM. Here are the things that you need to get things going. Obviously, you need access to the CA Identity Manager, Connector Server, Connector Express, and also we're going to need an archiving tool to open .jar files. The one that I'm going to be using in this demo will be the WinRAR application. You're also going to need the connectivity to a Sybase ASE database. Next, we'll need a web browser to view the Identity Manager environment. And lastly, most importantly, you're going to need the Sybase connector files bundle that we provided. Now let me just switch over to my VM. Alright, before we start, please make sure the services are not started yet. That means IDM, Connector Server, Provisioning Server, and Connector Express should be stopped if they are running at the moment. And make sure you have the Sybase connector files bundle at the ready. So the first thing we're going to do is to copy JConnect library into the respective places. Let's copy this. We will now copy it into the connector server, which is in my D drive, Identity Manager, connector server, under lib ext. So paste this here. Then we also need to copy it into Connector Express, which is here, Connector Express, under the lib folder. Paste it. So once that's done, let me minimize this. You can go ahead and start the provisioning services. So this will start the provisioning server as well as the Java connector server. It might take a while, so let me just skip ahead. Let me just confirm if JCS has started fully. JCS daily log. Okay, so it's still starting. We'll just give it a minute. Alright, this was what I was waiting for. So now we can carry on. Just minimize this. Now we need to fire up Connector Express, which is over here. Connector Express, bin. Maybe let me just pull this shortcut out. So let me run this Connector Express. Alright, so Connector Express is up and running. Let's open up our project file. It's in the files bundle, so let me just look for it. Yep, this is the .conf file. Open it. So this is the part that I'm talking about, where you need the connectivity to a Sybase endpoint. So let's add one. JDBC. And let's call this just Sybase. And the database type is ASE. So I'll go in as an SA. And for this, my server name is IDM server port 5000 and database master. Let's just test this connection. Password CA demo 123. Yep, it's good. So select this and click OK. So once the project is loaded, there are a few things that you can choose to change. You can change the name of the endpoint type. Maybe if you want to change it to such that it doesn't have a space, or you can just leave it as Sybase. But for us, I'll just leave it as it is. You can choose to change the description as well as the version. Another thing that you can change is the operation bindings under scripts. And this is where you make the modification to the source codes. So there's no need for you to change any of the other settings, just leave them as it is. So once again, you can change the endpoint type name, description, version, as well as the source code. The rest of them, leave them unchanged. Now to deploy the endpoint type, you have to expand the provisioning server, look for your provisioning server and log in as the super user. For me, the CA demo 123 is the password. Expand this one more time and right click on endpoint types and click create new endpoint type. So this will mimic the name that you set earlier, and select JCS, click on OK and OK. Expand the endpoint types, scroll down to Sybase ASE. Now right click on Sybase ASE, click on acquire endpoint. So now we can give this Sybase endpoint a name like Sybase local. Give it the SA password, CA demo 123. OK. And OK again. Now if you expand Sybase ASE, you should see Sybase local listed as one of the endpoints. One more step, right click on this, set the managing connector server, and I'll click on JCS. OK. That's done. OK. So now at this point we've effectively linked up this particular Sybase endpoint with the provisioning server as well as the Java connector server. We can minimize the connector express for now. Next we'll have to create the role definitions. CA provided a tool called the role definitions generator. Let's go to that path, which is in Windows, CA Identity Manager, IAM Suite. In the tools folder, there's over here, role definition generator, bin. It's a command line application, so we have to copy this path and open up command prompt. Just shift this over a little. Go to D drive and go to that folder, that bin folder. And the command goes like this: role def generator. First option is the domain, which for my case is IAM. Then comes the host, which is IDM server. And the user that I'm going to be using will be the super user. And followed by double quotes encapsulating the endpoint type name that you're going to be generating role definitions for. So in our case, it's Sybase ASE. Close with your double quote. And that should be it. What this is doing is it will be connecting to the provisioning server, gather all the information, and generate a package for you to install into the IAM user console. So let's run this. It should prompt for a password, and I'll key in my super user password, CA demo 123. And straight away we can see some things going on inside the bin folder. It's packaging the files, and just wait for it. So once that is done, we can see the Sybase ASE jar file created inside the bin folder. Now we need to open it up using, for my case I'm using WinRAR. Open up meta inf and extract this roledef.xml file. Just pull it out here. We'll be using this later. And close the WinRAR. Next we need to copy this jar file. Copy it. And we will paste it into the IDM user console. which for the sake of this VM it's inside D drive, JBoss, server, default, deploy, IAM, and user console.war, web inf, lib folder. So we'll paste this here, paste it. Next, we can start identity manager. So let me just minimize all these files and start IDM without SiteMinder. So as usual, this will take a while. It's best to look at the server logs to make sure it's fully started before we carry on. Alright, so it's starting and it will take quite a while. I will skip ahead and we will carry on once IDM is started. Alright, so the start sequence is complete. We can carry on. Let me minimize this. Now open up the browser and go over to the management console. Go to environments. Choose your environment and click on role and task settings. Now click on import. Scroll up to, you see Sybase ASE listed here, and the version is 1.0 but it has not been installed. So select this Sybase ASE, scroll to the bottom and browse for that XML file that we extracted earlier. So it's inside the role definitions bin folder. Role definition generator bin, and that's the XML file. Click open and click finish. So once the import is complete, you can click on continue and it will prompt you to restart the environment, so do that. Alright, so once that's done, we can go over to the environment. I'll log in as super user CA demo 123. Sign in. Next, we have to create and explore correlate for Sybase ASE. Let's go to endpoints, explore and correlate definitions, create, and we'll create a new. I'll just call this Sybase E and C. Select this and click on the select container endpoint explore method. Choose the Sybase ASE and we search for the endpoint that we created earlier. Now we'll search for containers and we'll select all containers, select and submit. Click on OK. Once that's done, we can now execute that ENC. Execute now, and we'll browse for it. I'll search all and scroll right to the bottom. Sybase ENC, yes. So that's selected, and I'll go over to select, and I'll click on finish. And then we'll create a new account template. Let's create an account template for the Sybase ASE. Select Sybase ASE and click OK. First we have to give it a name. Let's call it Sybase default template. Oh, no, Sybase ASE default template. And for the endpoints, let's search for that. Yep, Sybase ASE local or Sybase local. Select this. Click on the account. Account ID don't change, full name don't change, password don't change. Now the account status, very important, must change it to 480. That is the code number for active status. So we're assuming you want to create a new account with active status as its default. So that code name in Sybase ASE 12.5 is 480. For database, if you leave it blank, it will use master as the default. Then for the audit flag, you can choose to enable or disable. Let's set it to enabled first. And of course, you can make changes to server roles, group, alias to have default values, but for now, I'll just leave it as it is and click on submit. Okay, that's done. Next, we'll create a new provisioning role. That's under here, provisioning role. Create provisioning role. So we'll create a new provisioning role, click on OK. And the name will be, I'll just call it Sybase users. Description, optional. Account templates, choose the account template that we created just now. Sybase ASE. And I'll select this. Every provisioning role requires administrators and owners. So I'm going to just copy it from another provisioning role, which is, let me see. I'll just copy it from, I'll copy it from the SQL server, SQL DBA. Select them all. So that's copied. And owners, and I'll copy and I'll do the same steps. Search for SQL DBA, SQL DBA. Select. I'll select this and OK. Well, of course you can do this manually, but I just want to be consistent, so I'm doing the copying method. And once I'm satisfied with all these changes, just click on submit. And OK. Let me just double check if it's there. View provisioning role, Sybase user. Yep, there it is. And that is all for the deployment. We can test it out using one of the users. Let me just try this on manage users, search. Let me test on the first user, Almi01. Yep, modify user provisioning role. Add a provisioning role. Sybase user, select this and submit. So you see task pending. If all goes well, a new user should be created in Sybase. Let me just fire up Sybase Central. connect to using SA, CA demo 123, and let's take a look at the logins. Yep, Almy01 has been created, and that's all there is to it. We'll talk more during our training session, which is coming up in a couple of days. And until then, goodbye.